Hey everyone, welcome to 3 Beers Deep for April 27th, which means we are almost in May, which means we are almost to June, which means we may as well be going to E3 next week. I don't even know if I'm going to E3 this year. I mean, I'm probably going, but there's a chance that I will work on the Kotaku home team to sort of coordinate the coverage there. It would be the first time that I haven't gone to E3 since I was 14 years old. I've gone every single year since 1998. And I don't think I would be too upset about missing 1 year for the first time. Although I've got a good streak going. There were times in the past where I have missed like a day of E3 or 2 days of E3, but I've always made it out there for some part of it. Often the reason it would become problematic to get to the show would be because I had college finals. And like weirdly enough, my journalism classes were often the ones that I couldn't get an excuse or to change around my final schedule. Almost every other course was like, that sounds like an amazing opportunity for you to go and work on your trade and try and break into the business. Like, yes, do that. We'll figure out something for you. And some of my journalism courses would just tell me, nope. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But anyway, 3 Beers Deep, my weekly Q&A show in which you can submit questions to patrickklepek.tumblr.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's great. Otherwise, there's a podcast version called Inventory Management that lists all of my various audio-related things. You can find it on iTunes, and you can find a downloadable version at inventorymanagement.simplecast.fm. But I need to get to your questions. I've got one of these. I guess I can. You can't. This isn't good. Oh, now I'm hitting my mic. Not good radio, but you can see on the video. Got myself an Apple Watch. I've had it since, I guess, late Friday afternoon. I've been kind of messing with it during the weekend. I might do something separate about the Apple Watch for Kotaku and maybe record a separate video. But short thoughts on it really quickly are that I don't think it's for everyone, but especially if you're into fitness, especially if you find that you pull your phone out a lot just to check notifications that maybe if you knew that they weren't that important, but you knew they were there, it's a useful device. I think it's probably one that will make a lot more sense for a lot of people. In a year or two. I think it's going to make some really quick advances, but as a version 1, I'm really happy with it so far. And the more nuanced version of how I feel about it is something I'll have to give a little more thought to, so look forward to that. But let's get it to your questions. Anonymous asks, what was life like in college? Drunk? Hazy? Drunk? I went to school for print journalism at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I was a very happy B- student. I've always described it that way because I knew I was capable of much more, but I also wanted to enjoy college in a number of respects. That's kind of a two-pronged approach. One is that, yes, I went out a lot and had fun with my friends and got into a mess of trouble on a regular basis. The other part, and this is something that I carried over from high school, was that I passed on doing AP courses in high school, and I didn't put my full faith effort into all of my stuff at college because I was doing a lot of things on the side, whether it was like personal writing that I wasn't being paid for, or it was writing that I was freelancing for various video game magazines. It seemed to make sense that if I had to sacrifice time to put into let's say a feature for a journalism course versus putting in time for a feature that could appear in the pages of Computer Gaming World or EGM, it seemed to make a lot of sense to be doing that. Those were the things that were going to allow me to get a job. Those were the things that were going to pad my resume and make it look like, you know what, not only was he going to school and getting a degree, but he was doing stuff on the side. He showed initiative. So, it allowed me to do both. I was able to definitely have some fun and then also sort of start building credibility as a writer in a way that has, I think, paid off for me pretty well. I feel confident about that. And also your grades don't matter that much in college. So it's a little bit more about what you get out of it rather than necessarily what it says on the page. Obviously, there are plenty of reasons where that's not true, but at least for a lot of people, and at least for me, it was more about the experience of college and what I got out of it than necessarily getting straight A's, which I did mostly in high school. Also, quick side note, one of my favorite things to do in college was when our favorite bar, a place called Murphy's in Champaign, Illinois. Not a lot of frat guys there, which is why we liked it. To get back to all of our apartments, we had to walk past the local radio station, and they had a big open glass so you could see the DJs in there like talking and playing music. And they also had speakers that were outward facing, so you could hear the music that was playing on the radio. And so we would go up to the glass and we would demand that they play Prince and David Bowie and Meatloaf. And we would just stand outside until they finally put on the music we wanted to hear. And often it was like college students that were doing this at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So they were entertained that we were actually paying attention to the radio. And more often than not, we were able to get them to play the music that we wanted. Anonymous asked, expectations for Witcher 3. Have you or anyone in your circle of journalists had an opportunity to mess with it? Thanks. I've seen various demos of Witcher 3. The game looks really impressive. I enjoyed Witcher 2 quite a bit. I did not play Witcher 1. I jumped into Witcher 2 when they did the Xbox 360 version, which is fantastic. If you've never played that, it was a great version of that game, although I guess these days probably a modest PC could run Witcher 2 pretty well. But I'm really looking forward to Witcher 3. Post Bloodborne, that is the game I want to play the most. It's up there with Batman Arkham Knight, but there's something about Witcher 3 that I think I'm going to get lost in that world. And if they nail what they're going for, sort of the open world adventure with really good combat and quests, man, like that could be something special. And I'm glad they've taken their time. Delays are fine because it's like that Miyamoto quote, like a bad game's bad forever. A bad game can eventually become good. So hopefully that's the case for The Witcher 3. Tyler Colt, rest in peace, PT. Do you think Guillermo del Toro will ever get his horror game made? This combines with another question from Anonymous. Hey, can you get the scoop on who's the fucker who keeps clearly putting a curse on del Toro? So if you're not aware, unfortunately, it appears that Silent Hills has been canceled, or at least the current incarnation of it, in which it was going to be a collaboration between Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro and Walking Dead actor Norman Reedus. There was a demo put out, or rather a teaser put out last fall called PT, Playable Teaser, in which it teased the idea of Silent Hills. It's never been clear how indicative that was of what Silent Hills would be. Would that be a first-person kind of haunted house game, as was the case with PT? And we may never know. There's been word coming out both from Del Toro and from Norman Reedus that suggests the project is now on hold or possibly changing as Konami and Hideo Kojima go through their unfortunate breakup. I'm okay with Metal Gear. I'm one of those people that says 1 and 3 is great, 2 and 4 are terrible, and 5 seems to be more like 2 and 4. But gosh, I love and wanted more Silent Hill. I wanted there to be another great Silent Hill game, and it is just sun in my eye. It really breaks me up that that's not going to happen. And once again, Guillermo del Toro is unable to get a video game off the ground. His THQ project went nowhere. Silent Hills is going apparently nowhere. And I suppose it's possible this will change, but my guess is the reason Guillermo del Toro, the reason Norman Reedus were involved were not because they were especially interested in participating in a Silent Hill game or that they were big Konami fans. It's because Hideo Kojima was involved in that world, had reached out to these people and wanted to collaborate with them to try and make something spectacular. And maybe it would have been terrible. I don't know. But gosh, I wish that game would exist so that I could judge it for myself. And I think more than that, right? Like even if Silent Hills isn't going to exist, or at least not in the form that we had clearly been anticipating, Konami is also taking a further action in which they are taking down PT from the PlayStation Network. I'm not sure if that's a passive-aggressive move that is a response to Silent Hills no longer being a thing. There's also kind of always been this understanding that, like in the past, publishers have had to pay for the downloads, including demos. So there's, from the past, like Atlas took down a demo for Catherine. So it's possible they're taking down the demo for PT because they don't want to pay for it anymore. That also then again might just be tied to the fact that because Silent Hills is no longer a thing, why would they pay for people to download something promoting a game they're no longer going to make? But PT, I think, for my money, and also for no one's money because it's free, is the scariest thing in video games right now. It is an utterly horrifying experience that I had no qualms when I made my Kotaku list of the top 10 horror games right now. The PT was at the top of that list. That list was not saying the best horror games of all time given legacy and context and influence. It was, if right now you want to boot up a video game and get scared shitless, PT is the game to do it. And man, it falls apart at the end. There's all sorts of problems with it. The puzzles that kind of link into the ARG, that stuff was kind of nonsense. But man, so many great scares. If anything, just experiencing that one truly horrifying scare when the zombie creature lady comes up behind you. Top 10 video game moments of all time, probably right there. And the fact that millions of people will never get a chance to play it because Konami's going to bring it down, it really does break my heart. And because we're in a current generation, it's not like you can just download this to your PC. It's not like we can rely on pirates being able to sort of maintain its relevance in the future. I mean, all that stuff will happen, but it will happen later. And it's just really sad. So if you're watching this, if you're reading this, or well, not reading it, but if you're listening to it, make sure and log in and download PT. Even if you haven't played it, even if you don't want to play it, it's going to disappear forever unless you get it locally on your hard drive. And also, if you don't own a PS4, you can still sign into the PlayStation Store and download it so that it is locked to your account and still accessible. Make sure you do that. And at least we can feel good about sticking it to Konami a little bit because that means that they're paying for those downloads. So we can take solace in that. John Lennon, 1092, asks, "Hey Pat, are there any games from the past few years you put on a backlog that you regret never getting around to playing or not playing enough of?" Persona 4 continues to be sort of the game at the high end of my backlog that I need to get around to at some point. And as I said in previous podcasts, that I have every intention of playing Persona 4, the Golden, at one point or another. It is on my Vita. As soon as I know when Persona 5 is on its way, then that'll be kind of my signal to jump into it. But it sucks to see how excited people are about the new Persona and to kind of go, well, I bet I'd be excited about this if I knew what there was to be excited about. And I think that's what is at the heart of it, is that often I find the reason I jump into new genres is that when something's announced and people are tremendously excited for it, like, not only do I feel left out, but I want to understand. Like, I want to know why people are so excited about this. Well, my watch just was vibrated. I thought it was because I'd hit 18 minutes, but that's definitely not the case. It was a different notification. That's the thing that you actually have to manage a lot on this, is that lots of people have tons of notifications on their phone, and you really don't want to be looking at your wrist all the time. So you really want to cut down on those notifications. So it's only the very key, crucial ones you would ever want to know right up front. So in any case, Persona is the one I really need to get over to. Anonymous asks, Uncharted was delayed, Zelda was delayed, Battlefront is online only, Assassin's Creed has lost its way. What game, if any, do you think could be the standout single-player game of Q4? That requires us looking up video games 2015. What else is coming out? Because you're specifically asking about Q4, so that kind of takes out Witcher, that takes out Batman Arkham Knight. All right, so we got Halo 5 Guardians, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, No Man's Sky, Quantum Break's not coming anymore. Mighty Number 9 is supposed to come out sometime this year. Star Fox is supposed to come out sometime this year. The Witness is supposed to come out sometime. The Witness, that could be something special. I think there's a lot of downloadable games that don't necessarily come to mind. The Witness, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. I think those are both potentially fantastic games. I hope the new Yoshi game is good. Mario Maker could be fantastic. There's a lot of ways they could screw that up. I'm still excited about Until Dawn, the horror game coming out for the PS4, starring Hayden Panettiere? I don't know how to pronounce her name. Lego Jurassic World, but that comes out in June, so that doesn't really... All right, if I'm going to pick one, and you said Q4, which that technically takes out Metal Gear because that's September. And then Halo 5, I think, is October. We don't have a date for No Man's Sky. Okay, I'm going to go with No Man's Sky. I think No Man's Sky is potentially... No Man's Sky or Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, I think, are potentially not necessarily hidden gems, but ones that we're not thinking of that could be truly tremendous games that blow us all away later in the year. Anonymous asks, hey, in your Bloodborne review, you told us to rank the Souls games in a couple of weeks. It's been a couple of weeks. Give us the scoops. Unfortunately, I have not made it further in Dark Souls 2. I've honestly been extremely busy the last couple of weekends. It looks like I'm not going to be busy next weekend all that much, so I'm hoping that I can maybe set aside a bunch of hours to dig through more of it. I'm also planning to do some streams this week in which I play through more Dark Souls 2. So look forward to that. And I need to play the DLC before I can rank those games. So know that I've kept that in mind, but I need to play through the DLC before I can actually make good on that promise. I also haven't played Bloodborne again. I plan to go through New Game Plus, but haven't done that quite yet, and I'd like to get around to that. There's just so much. There's so much to play, and I'm behind on Titan Souls, and I haven't played Ori and the Blind Forest. Video games. Anonymous. Hey, Patrick. What is one thing that you'd like to change, either personally, physically, or work habits? I need to be stronger-willed and put myself more into things, and I don't know how to do it. It's a good question. I guess one thing I wish I did more was that I have a lot of ideas, and I scribble down a lot of ideas. And I mean ideas in sort of like grander things I'd like to do that are outside of the wheelhouse of what I already know I can do and am good at and have done before. It's scary to do new things. And, on the small scale, there's like, playing video games that you've never tried before. On a larger scale, there's trying new things in life. Like, for example, one thing I want to do this summer is I want to jump out of a plane. I want to go skydiving. Never done it before. Just seems like it'd be something really cool to do. I'm starting to recruit a bunch of friends that want to do it as well. The idea being if I can get other people to do it with me, then I'll actually do it. But I think, if, more to the spirit of the question is in this sense of like, I wish when I thought like, oh, maybe I'd like to write a book, like take steps to doing that. Like, oh, I'd like to write a horror screenplay, like take steps to do that. And I think being someone that's, just turned 30, I'm still pretty young, that you think of life as something, well, I'll just get around to that another time. And you never know when that other time is going to disappear or something else is going to come up. And what if I find out that I'm having a kid really soon? All these things could take away that time that you think is infinite, and it's actually not. So I think what I wish I could be better about is having a good idea, or just an idea, whether it's a good one or not, and just giving it a shot, and being able to cross it off and say you tried it. I think that's something we could all probably do a little more often. The question I want to end on is about something that's really kind of been all over the headlines and really riling people up in a lot of different directions, has been the fact that Valve announced last week that people can now charge for mods on Steam. Now, it's not every game. There has to be a negotiation with the publisher to open up their Steam Workshop, which is where mods are distributed through Steam. And then there is a revenue that goes to, timer done. I've hit 18 minutes. Cool. Sorry, that was for the radio. That was my Apple Watch buzzing again to let me know I made it 18 minutes in. I like using it to sort of signal the passage of time in a way that doesn't require like a beep or a loud noise or something like that. I just kind of I know like, oh, okay, 18 minutes. In any case, so Skyrim is one of the first game to allow this to happen, in which I think it's only 25% goes to the modder. The rest is split between, the most of it goes to Bethesda, and then I think 25% goes to Valve. And this has sort of ignited this firestorm of controversy over something that used to be basically free or donation-based is now possibly monetized. And there's a lot of tensions happening here. So I'm gonna read the two questions, and then I'll kind of get into my thoughts on it now that we're a couple of days in. Anonymous says, many mod makers, especially younger ones, make use of not just stolen assets, but a lot of pirated software in the development of their mods. Autodesk's licenses aren't always cheap after all. You can't sell stuff if it's made with software you don't have the appropriate license for. It's another problem with the paid mod system that hasn't been properly addressed. Anonymous says, sometimes I regret being so deep into this gaming stuff when I see what many people in the community are like. People are losing their minds over this Steam mod stuff. It's okay to be passionate about your hobbies, but the levels these people go to, the hatred and anger they have, is just really weird. There seems to be a new thing to hate every month, and each time I find myself not wanting to be associated with gamers a little bit more. So I think ultimately, I think this is a really, really good thing for games, for mods, for mod makers. There are going to be a lot of really weird things that have to be worked out in the meantime. There are a lot of really strange problems that are unique to mods, as are alluded to in one of these questions, that Valve's going to have to deal with, publishers are going to have to deal with. But if, at the end of the day, there are people that can make money doing a craft that people desire, that people want, I think they should be allowed to sell that. And I think at a base level, that is what Valve is trying to do here. Obviously, you can look at it cynically. They make money off of it. Bethesda makes more money off of it. And this has been historically something that was not monetized But I don't think that just involving money means that it's necessarily a bad thing. Sure, there can absolutely be people who abuse this system that are going to release things that otherwise would have been free. But at the same time, what if this allows people to dedicate more time? What if this allows people to hire folks to create more expansive, better mods? I think a lot of the concerns that have been raised, part of what bothers me is there is this tension over what something that used to be free that is now potentially going to be something you have to pay money for. And you can make the argument from sort of the consumer player perspective that it was this amazing thing that extended the longevity of these games and they were so much fun to use and play with. But at the same time, like, people weren't being financially rewarded for the time they were putting into that. And maybe some of them don't want to be rewarded in that manner. And that nothing about Steam allowing mods to charge money is going to change that for the people that don't want to get paid for it. And in fact, I think just today, when I'm recording this on Sunday, Valve added the option for sort of pay whatever you want, which is basically a donation model. And so that's a tweak in which the community spoke and said, we want this option. Modders said, we want this option. And now it's there. And I think that is a nice middle ground that provides a better opportunity for everyone involved. But this idea that just because it was free means it should remain free, I have a huge problem with. It comes from, this got sort of thrown around a lot when the new consoles were getting launched. But this idea of entitlement, this idea that just because it was free before means it needs to remain free, or because I've enjoyed this thing the way it was and the way in the past means it should always stay that way, or this person has not been financially rewarded for their hard work. They shouldn't be because that's just the way mods are. I disagree with that. I do not. It bothers me to think that just because people haven't made money on this in the past or haven't been rewarded for their hard work, that, well, I like things for free and I want them to remain that way, they should be that way. Now, that's not everyone's perspective, and I don't mean to be overly broad on that, right? Because there are certainly legitimate concerns I've seen raised by mod makers themselves that by introducing money into the equation, like, you're disrupting the culture that existed there before. But I think it was a culture ripe for disruption, and that a shakeup like this could potentially be great for everyone, in which the culture that already existed, in which things are freely created and released of no charge, that's all still there. And the workshop was a way for people to get increased visibility for that. But if people want to start making a living in the way that independent developers have been able to transition to doing that in the last 5 to 10 years, if that could happen for mods too, that's fantastic, and also legitimizes them in a way that mods haven't always been legitimized. I understand and sympathize with some of the criticisms and people that are deeply embedded in that culture and don't want to see that change. But I also get really bothered by this sense of entitlement over something that was free that needs to remain free just because it was free. And I think that suggests something a little dark about some of those cultures, and also it's just more of a kind of being averse to change. And so I think it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out. I think it's ultimately going to be something really, really positive. Some of the folks that I have talked to that were been involved in the creation of this, people have their hearts in the right places about this. And obviously it's going to be bumpy. It's going to continue to be bumpy, but I think ultimately it's going to be a good thing for all people involved. And with that is 3 Beers Deep for this week. In the future, if you want to submit questions, you can do so by going to patrickklepek.tumblr.com. I answer questions on a daily basis over there, in addition to taking questions from there for 3 Beers Deep. If you want to listen to the audio version, as you're watching this on YouTube, go to inventorymanagement.simplecast.fm to download it, take an RSS link, and dump that into your favorite podcast app or application. Or, well, I guess because app is what on a phone, and then it's application, what you have on computers. I don't know. There's an RSS feed. You can punch it into anything that plays podcasts, and then search for Inventory Management on iTunes. And look forward to a more proper weekly podcast from me in the near future. I think I have found some great folks to talk about games with in the city of Chicago, where we can get in a room and have something a little closer to what I've done in the past. But I've been very specific about the kinds of people I wanted to find. I wanted to find folks that haven't been heard in games before, haven't been heard enough in games before, where we get in a room together and do it not over Skype or anything like that. And we're going to do a test run podcast, hopefully this week. I don't think that means it's going to go up this week, but we're going to kind of get in a room and see how things go. So look forward to that. I'll have more details to share in the near future, but I'm really excited about it because there's also stuff I want to talk about that I only get to do over Twitter and things like that, and I'd love to be bouncing ideas off of really smart, intelligent people who love games just like I do. So look forward to that. Look forward to details on that. And that is it for 3 Beers Deep. See you guys all next week.